The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such tension. 12 ancient species sat in their ceremonial chairs, each representing civilizations that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. The Xanathi with their blue crystalline skin reflected the chamber's lights like living jewels. The massive Corvan delegates breathed heavily through their trunk-like noses, their elephant-like faces showing clear displeasure. The insect-like Thrix clicked their mandibles in what could only be anger. At the center of it all stood a single human woman. Ambassador Sarah Chen looked impossibly small compared to the alien beings around her. She wore a simple black suit that seemed plain next to the elaborate robes and armor of the other delegates. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her brown eyes remained calm as the council members spoke in harsh tones. "The humans have gone too far," declared Councillor Vexthon of the Xanathi. His voice echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. "In just 300 years, they have spread to 47 star systems. This is unprecedented expansion for such a young species." The Corvan representative, Councillor Morok, stamped his massive foot. The sound boomed through the hall. "They build colonies faster than we can track them. Their ships appear in systems we thought were empty. They ask no permission. They follow no ancient laws." Sarah Chen listened without moving. Her face showed no emotion as the accusations continued. "The humans are dangerous," added Councillor Zeke of the Thrix, her compound eyes glittering. "They do not respect the natural order. They do not understand their place in the galaxy." For 3 hours, the council members took turns speaking. They talked about humanity's rapid growth. They complained about human traders who offered better prices than established merchants. They worried about human scientists who made discoveries that challenged old theories. They feared human diplomats who asked uncomfortable questions about ancient treaties. Through it all, Sarah Chen stood quietly. She did not argue. She did not interrupt. She simply listened and took notes on a simple tablet. Finally, the chief counselor of the hegemony spoke. Zarthul was the oldest being in the chamber, his scaled skin showing the marks of 20,000 years of life. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. "Humanity has become a problem that threatens the stability of our galaxy," Zarthul said slowly. "Your species expands too quickly. You change too much. You do not respect the wisdom of those who came before you." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Therefore, the Galactic Council has reached a decision. Humanity will immediately cease all colonization beyond your current 47 systems. You will submit to species guidance protocols. This means your worlds will be overseen by appointed council supervisors. Your expansion will be controlled. Your development will be guided by those with proper experience." The other council members nodded in agreement. This was the traditional way. Young species needed guidance. They needed to be taught their place. The galaxy had worked this way for millions of years. Zarthul continued, "You have been granted membership in this council as a courtesy to your potential. But potential without wisdom is dangerous. You will accept these terms or you will face the consequences." The threat was clear. The council controlled the major trade routes. They controlled access to advanced technology. They controlled the flow of information between star systems. A species that defied the council would find themselves isolated and struggling. The council members expected Sarah Chen to argue. They expected her to plead for more time. They expected her to try to negotiate better terms. Young species always did. They would demand meetings with their home government. They would ask for delays. They would promise to slow their expansion if they could keep some freedom. Instead, Sarah Chen simply nodded. "We understand your position," she said quietly. The council members looked at each other in confusion. That was it? No protests? No demands? No desperate bargaining? Sarah continued in the same calm voice. "If this is the will of the Galactic Council, then humanity will respond accordingly." She closed her tablet and tucked it into her jacket pocket. "I formally withdraw humanity from all galactic institutions, effective immediately," she said. "We will no longer participate in the Galactic Trade Federation. We resign from the Interspecies Scientific Consortium. We cancel our membership in the Cultural Exchange Program. We withdraw from all joint military exercises and mutual defense agreements." The silence in the chamber was complete. This was not how these meetings usually went. Furthermore, Sarah continued, "All human diplomats will depart alien space within 72 standard hours. All human traders will complete their current contracts and return to human space. All human scientists working on joint projects will pack their research and leave. All human tourists will end their visits and come home. Counselor Vex then finally found his voice. Ambassador Chen, perhaps we should discuss this further. The council is willing to negotiate. There is nothing to negotiate, Sarah interrupted politely. You have made your position clear. We are too young, too reckless, too dangerous for galactic society. We accept this judgment. She turned toward the exit, then paused. Thank you for the opportunity to address the council. Humanity wishes you all prosperity and peace. With that, she walked out of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the stunned silence. Within hours, the news spread across the galaxy. Humanity was leaving. Not just the council, but everything. Every human embassy closed its doors. Every human trade ship turned around and headed home. Every human research station powered down and evacuated. The speed was shocking. Most species took months or years to organize such movements. Humans did it in days. At busy spaceports, human families gathered their belongings with quiet efficiency. They did not seem angry or upset. They simply packed their things and boarded ships bound for human space. When asked for comments by alien journalists, they gave polite but empty responses. We're going home, they would say. It's time to focus on our own affairs. Human cargo ships continued to fulfill existing contracts, but they took no new orders. Human passenger ships stopped selling tickets to alien destinations. Human communication networks began shutting down connections to alien systems. The Galactic Council members watched in growing unease. They had expected anger. They had expected resistance. They had expected humans to fight for their place in galactic society. Instead, they got silence. By the end of the week, the withdrawal was complete. Every human had left alien space. The embassies were empty. The trade routes were clear. The research stations were abandoned. Humanity had simply vanished from galactic society as if they had never been there at all. The council members told themselves this was a victory. They had solved the human problem without firing a shot. The dangerous young species had been contained. Order had been restored. But deep down, many of them felt a growing worry. Humans had always been unpredictable. What were they planning in the silence of their own space? The galaxy was about to find out. 6 months had passed since the humans left, and the galaxy felt different. Counselor Vexthon stood in his crystal palace on Zenith Prime, looking out at the busy spaceport below. Ships from a dozen species landed and took off in steady streams. Trade was flowing again through routes that humans had once dominated. The Xanathi merchants were making good profits from the cargo runs that human ships used to handle. The human problem has been solved perfectly, Vexthon told his aide, a younger Xanathi with bright blue skin. We contained their expansion without violence. The galaxy is returning to proper order. His aide nodded but looked uncertain. Counselor, there have been some strange reports from the border regions. What kind of reports? Vexthon asked, turning from the window. Our trade ships have been trying to enter human space. They're being turned away at the border, not by military ships, but by automated stations. The messages are always polite but firm. Vexthon waved a crystal hand dismissively. Of course, they're isolating themselves. Young species often sulk when they don't get their way. They'll come back when they realize they need galactic trade to survive. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. On the Corvin homeworld, Counselor Morok was reviewing trade reports with satisfaction. Corvin shipping companies had taken over many routes that humans previously controlled. Profits were up 30%. The humans were undercutting our prices, Morok rumbled to his assistant. Now that they're gone, we can charge proper rates again. But even Morok had noticed something odd. Human space had gone completely dark. No radio signals escaped from their territory. No ships came out. It was as if 47 star systems had simply vanished from the galaxy. On Thrix, Counselor Zeke was having similar thoughts as she reviewed intelligence reports. The Thrix had the best spy networks in the galaxy. Their small insect-like agents could infiltrate almost anywhere. But they couldn't get into human space. Every probe they sent was politely intercepted and returned. Every spy ship was detected and escorted back to the border. The humans weren't being hostile about it. They were just being thorough. It's like they've built a wall around their entire territory, Zeke's intelligence chief reported. We can't get any ships past the border. We can't intercept any communications. We can't even get close enough to scan their systems properly. Zeke clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. What about our deep space sensors? Can we detect anything from long range? That's the strange part, the intelligence chief replied. Our sensors show normal stellar activity in human space. Stars are burning, planets are orbiting, but we can't detect any of the usual signs of civilization. No industrial emissions, no communication signals, no spacecraft traffic. Maybe they've reverted to a primitive state, Zik suggested. Perhaps losing access to galactic technology has set them back. But privately, she wasn't convinced. Humans had always been surprisingly good at developing their own technology. It seemed unlikely they would simply collapse. The months continued to pass, and the silence from human space grew more unsettling. Ships that tried to enter human territory were always met by the same response. Automated stations would appear seemingly from nowhere and deliver the same polite message. These systems are temporarily closed to external traffic. We appreciate your understanding. Safe travels. The stations themselves were puzzling. They didn't match any known human ship designs. They were smooth, elegant things that seemed to shimmer slightly in starlight. They appeared when needed and vanished when their job was done. No one could figure out how they moved so quickly or where they came from. Chief Counselor Zarthul called for a special session to discuss the situation. The ancient leader was beginning to feel uneasy about humanity's silence. It has been 6 months since the humans withdrew, he told the assembled council. Perhaps it is time to open communication channels. We should check on their condition. Counselor Vexthon spoke up immediately. With respect, Chief Counselor, why should we be concerned? They chose isolation. Let them have it. Because silence from an entire species is not natural, Zarthul replied. In my 20,000 years, I have seen many young species face setbacks. They always make noise. They complain, they threaten, they beg for help. They don't simply disappear. Counselor Morok shifted his massive bulk in his chair. Our intelligence suggests they're still there. The stars in their space haven't gone out. Their planets are still in orbit. But what are they doing? Zarthul asked. A species doesn't simply stop all communication unless something significant is happening. The council members looked at each other uncertainly. The truth was, none of them really understood humans. Humanity was the youngest species ever invited to join the council. Most of the older species had taken thousands of years to develop spaceflight. Humans had done it in mere centuries. That speed had worried many council members. Species that developed too quickly often became unstable. They would expand rapidly, burn through resources, and then collapse. The council had seen it happen before, though not often. Perhaps they're planning something, suggested Counselor Zik. The humans were always unpredictable. Their silence might be preparation for some kind of action. What kind of action? Vexthon asked with amusement. They're isolated in their own space. They have no allies. They've cut themselves off from galactic trade and technology. What could they possibly be planning? Zarthul wasn't amused. Something felt wrong about this situation. In his long experience, species in trouble made noise. They sent distress signals. They requested aid. They tried to maintain some kind of contact with the outside galaxy. Humans were doing none of these things. They were simply quiet. I want increased surveillance of the human border, Zarthul decided. Station monitoring ships at regular intervals. Record everything that happens. I want to know if so much as a single human ship crosses their boundary. The order was implemented immediately. Ships from all the major species took positions along the border of human space. They maintained careful watch, recording everything their sensors could detect. What they found was disturbing in its ordinariness. Human space looked exactly like it should. Stars burned normally. Planets followed their orbits. There were no signs of massive construction projects or military buildup. There were no fleets of ships moving between systems, but there were also no signs of normal civilization. No commercial traffic between human worlds. No communication signals bouncing between systems. No industrial emissions from their colonies. It was as if humanity had simply stopped. The watching ships tried every form of communication they knew. Radio signals, quantum transmissions, laser communications, even old-fashioned light signals. Nothing got a response from inside human space. The automated border stations would still appear to escort away any ship that tried to cross the boundary, but they never explained what was happening inside. They just gave the same polite message and sent visitors away. As the months stretched on, some of the younger council members began to suggest that maybe they should send an official delegation. Perhaps humanity needed help but was too proud to ask for it. The older members disagreed. If the humans wanted contact, they would reach out. Vexathon argued. Their silence is clearly intentional. We should respect their choice. But late at night, in the privacy of their own quarters, even the most confident council members wondered what humanity was doing in the darkness of their isolated space. The galaxy had become strangely quiet, without human voices on the communication networks. Trade routes felt empty without human ships. Scientific conferences seemed less interesting without human researchers asking strange questions. The council had gotten what they wanted. Humanity was contained. The threat of rapid human expansion was over. So why did so many of them feel like they had made a terrible mistake? Captain Helix of the Helican survey ship, Brightwing, was having a very bad day. The Helicans were known throughout the galaxy for their careful, methodical approach to exploration. Their pale green skin and large black eyes were perfectly adapted for long periods in space. They rarely took risks, and they never went anywhere without proper preparation. That's why Captain Helix was so confused about what was happening to his ship. "Run the diagnostics again," he ordered his science officer. Lieutenant Kresh's fingers moved quickly over the control panel. His expression grew more worried with each reading. "Captain, the quantum fold drive is completely unresponsive. All quantum fields in this region seem to be dampened somehow." "That's impossible," Helix replied, but his voice lacked confidence. "Quantum fields are fundamental forces. They can't just be turned off." The Brightwing had been conducting a routine survey mission along the edge of human space. The Helican Science Council wanted to map the region now that humans were no longer actively patrolling it. It should have been a simple job. Instead, they had discovered something that shouldn't exist. "Sir," called out Navigator Vesh from her station, "I'm reading over 400 active star systems in what used to be human space." "That's wrong," Helix said immediately. "Human space only contained 47 systems. Check your instruments." Vesh worked frantically at her controls. Her large eyes reflected the glow of multiple displays. "I've run the scan 6 times, Captain. I'm detecting massive industrial activity across hundreds of systems. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases." Helix moved to look over her shoulder. The navigation display showed a 3-dimensional map of local space. What he saw made his skin turn an even paler shade of green. Where the border of human space should have been, the sensors now detected a vast region of activity. Hundreds of star systems showed signs of civilization. More disturbing, many of these systems had been empty space just months ago. "This has to be a sensor error," Helix muttered. "People can't build star systems." "Captain," called out the communications officer Ensign Drac, "I'm getting some very strange readings from our deep space scanners. It looks like construction around multiple stars." "What kind of construction?" "I don't know, sir. The energy patterns don't match anything in galactic databases. But the scale... Captain, if these readings are correct, someone is building structures around entire suns." Helix felt a chill run down his spine. Stellar engineering was theoretical technology. Even the oldest species in the galaxy couldn't build around stars. The materials and energy required were beyond anything known to science. "Try to move us closer," he ordered, "but keep us well outside human space. I want better sensor readings." That's when they discovered their second problem. The quantum fold drive that should have moved them instantly across space simply wouldn't engage. Worse, when they tried to back away from the human border, their engines seemed to lose power. "Captain, we're caught in some kind of field," reported Chief Engineer Molt from the engine room. "I can't explain it, but space itself seems different here. Our fold drive can't create a quantum tunnel. Use the impulse engines," Helix ordered. "Get us away from here." But even the impulse engines were struggling. The ship moved slowly, as if pushing through thick liquid instead of empty space. It was as if the basic laws of physics had been changed in this region. Hours passed as the Brightwing struggled to move away from the human border. During that time, their sensors continued to gather impossible data. Energy readings that violated known physics. Gravitational anomalies that suggested massive objects moving in ways that should be impossible. Neutrino emissions that indicated technologies beyond any known science. Most disturbing of all, their scanners detected several worlds that had been dead for millions of years, suddenly showing signs of atmospheric reconstruction and growing ecosystems. "Captain," Vesh said quietly, "I think we need to consider the possibility that we're looking at technology far beyond anything the galaxy has seen before." Before Helix could respond, their proximity alarms began sounding. A ship was approaching from deeper inside human space. Red alert, Helix called out, though he wasn't sure what good it would do. If humans had technology that could manipulate space itself, their weapons were probably beyond imagination. The approaching ship appeared on their screens, and Helix felt his confusion deepen. It looked nothing like the human vessels in the galactic databases. This ship was elegant and smooth, with flowing lines that seemed to bend light around them. It moved without any visible engines, gliding through space like a living thing. "They're hailing us," reported Ensign Drac. On screen, a human face appeared on the main display. It was a young woman with short brown hair and kind eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform that Helix didn't recognize. Most surprisingly, she spoke in perfect Helican. "Greetings, Captain Helix of the Bright Wing," she said with a warm smile. "I am Commander Torres of the human vessel Sanctuary. We noticed you seem to be having engine trouble." Helix stared at the screen. How did she know his name? How did she speak his language so perfectly? And how had humans built a ship that could move through space that had trapped his vessel? "Commander Torres," he managed to say, "we were conducting a routine survey mission when our engines malfunctioned." "Yes, we're aware of the effect our spatial modifications have on quantum fold technology," Torres replied apologetically. "We should have posted better warnings at the border. We're happy to escort you safely back to galactic space." "Spatial modifications?" Helix repeated weakly. Torres nodded. "We've made some adjustments to the physical properties of space in our region. It helps with our current projects. Unfortunately, it makes traditional faster-than-light travel impossible for visitors." She paused, and her expression became more serious. "Captain, I must inform you that our space is currently closed to visitors. We're in the middle of some important work, and we can't allow outside interference. I hope you understand." Helix found his voice. "Commander, our sensors are detecting massive construction projects throughout this region. Are you rebuilding your civilization?" Torres smiled again, and there was something almost sad in her expression. "In a way, Captain. But we're not just rebuilding our own civilization. We're rebuilding others as well." Before Helix could ask what she meant, the Sanctuary moved alongside the Bright Wing. Somehow, the human ship's presence seemed to stabilize their engines. The quantum fold drive came back online, though at reduced power. "We'll escort you to the border," Torres said. "From there, you should be able to resume normal operations. Please give our regards to the Galactic Council." The journey back to the border took several hours. During that time, Helix and his crew tried to scan the human ship alongside them. Their instruments returned impossible readings. The vessel seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Its energy source appeared to be tapping into the fundamental forces of space itself. More disturbing, as they traveled, they passed several worlds that Helix recognized from historical records. These were planets that had been destroyed or abandoned millions of years ago. Now they showed signs of active reconstruction. Atmospheres were being rebuilt. Oceans were being restored. Life was returning to worlds that had been dead since before humans had even evolved. "How is this possible?" Vesh whispered, staring at the sensor readings. Helix had no answer. What they were seeing violated everything they knew about science, history, and the very nature of civilization itself. When they reached the border, Commander Torres gave them a final message. "Please tell the Council that humanity holds no ill will toward any species," she said. "We simply needed time and space to grow. We hope that when we're ready to rejoin galactic society, we can do so as friends." The human ship turned and vanished back into the depths of modified space, leaving the Bright Wing alone at the border. As they finally jumped to faster-than-light speed and headed home, Helix wondered how he would possibly explain what they had seen. Who would believe that humans had somehow acquired godlike technology in just a few months? Who would believe that they were bringing dead worlds back to life? The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in recorded history. Chief Counselor Zarthul looked down at the Helican survivors with deep concern. Captain Helix and his crew had been brought directly to the council chambers after their return from human space. Their pale green skin looked almost white with stress, and their large black eyes showed the kind of fear that came from seeing impossible things. "Tell us again what you observed," Zarthul said gently. Captain Helix took a shaky breath. "Chief Counselor, we detected over 400 active star systems, where there should have been only 47. Massive construction projects around multiple suns, technology that could modify the basic properties of space itself. Counselor Vexthon's crystal skin flashed with irritation. Captain, what you're describing is impossible. No species has that level of technology. Even the ancient progenitors couldn't modify space itself. I know what I saw. Helix replied firmly. Our instruments recorded everything. The data is all there. The Council's chief scientist, Dr. Yilmaz of the Corvin, had been studying the Helican data for hours. The massive, elephant-like being looked up from his analysis with troubled eyes. Counselors, I've verified the sensor readings multiple times. The data appears to be accurate, though it contradicts everything we know about physics and engineering. That's impossible, snapped Counselor Zeke of the Thrix. Young species don't develop such advanced technology in months. It takes thousands of years. Dr. Yilmaz's trunk swayed nervously. The energy signatures they recorded don't match anything in our databases. The gravitational readings suggest manipulation of space-time on a massive scale. The neutrino patterns indicate power sources that dwarf our most advanced reactors. He paused, looking around the chamber. Most disturbing of all, the spectroscopic analysis of several worlds shows atmospheric reconstruction using elements that shouldn't exist in this galaxy. A stunned silence filled the chamber. Even the most ancient council members had never heard of such technology. Lieutenant Kresh, the Helican science officer, spoke up quietly. There's something else, counselors. We recognized some of the worlds we saw being rebuilt. What do you mean? Zarthul asked. They were planets from species that went extinct millions of years ago. Worlds that have been dead longer than humans have existed. Someone is bringing them back to life. The implications of this statement hung heavy in the air. The galaxy was full of dead worlds, remnants of civilizations that had fallen to war, disease, or natural disaster. The idea that anyone could restore them was beyond comprehension. Counselor Morak shifted his massive bulk uncomfortably. Perhaps we should send a proper diplomatic mission. If humans have developed such capabilities, we need to understand their intentions. What if their intentions are hostile? Vexton asked. A species with that kind of power could threaten the entire galaxy. Zarthul considered this carefully. In his 20,000 years of life, he had seen many threats to galactic peace. But he had also learned to recognize when fear was driving bad decisions. Captain Helix, he said, describe your interaction with the human vessel. Were they threatening in any way? Helix shook his head. No, Chief Counselor. They were polite, even helpful. Commander Torres apologized for the effect their technology had on our ship. They escorted us safely to the border and wished us well. But they refused to allow you into their space? Yes, but not aggressively. They said they were working on important projects and couldn't allow outside interference. Dr. Yilmaz had been studying his data screens during this conversation. Suddenly, his large eyes widened with shock. Counselors, he said urgently. I've been analyzing the deep space sensor data from our monitoring stations. We need to look at this immediately. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy with hundreds of tiny blinking lights scattered across its spiral arms. What are we looking at? Zarthul asked. These are gravitational anomalies detected by our sensors over the past 6 months, Dr. Yilmaz explained. At first we thought they were equipment malfunctions. But now, he manipulated the display and the lights began to pulse in sequence. The pattern suggests coordinated movement of massive objects across thousands of light years. Objects large enough to create detectable gravitational waves. Counselor Zeke's compound eyes reflected the holographic light. What kind of objects? Unknown. But the energy signatures match what the Helican crew detected in human space. It's as if someone has been moving, building materials, across the entire galaxy. The chamber fell silent as the council members absorbed this information. The scale of what Dr. Yilmaz was suggesting was staggering. Moving massive objects across galactic distances would require technology that made their most advanced ships look like toys. There's more, Dr. Yilmaz continued nervously. Several of our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual neutrino patterns over the past months. The patterns suggest industrial activity on a scale we've never seen before. Brought up another display showing energy readings from across the galaxy. Someone has been conducting massive engineering projects in dozens of systems simultaneously, projects that require more energy than entire star systems produce. Chief Counselor Zarthul studied the data with growing alarm. The implications were clear but almost impossible to accept. Somehow, in less than a year, Humanity had not only developed impossible technology but had begun using it on a galactic scale. Dr. Yilmaz, he said slowly, in your opinion as our chief scientist, could humans have developed this technology on their own? The Corvin scientist's trunk curled with uncertainty. Chief Counselor, the technology gap is too large. 6 months ago, humans were using quantum fold drives like the rest of us. The advancement from that level to what we're seeing now would normally take millions of years. Then how do you explain it? I can't, Dr. Yilmaz admitted. Either they've made impossible scientific breakthroughs or they've received help from someone with vastly superior technology. Counselor Vexthan's crystal skin flashed bright blue with agitation. Help from whom? We know every spacefaring species in the galaxy. None of them have this level of capability. What about the progenitors? Suggested Counselor Morok quietly. The progenitors were a legendary species that had supposedly ruled the galaxy millions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. Most council members considered them to be mythology rather than history. The progenitors are a myth, Vexthan said dismissively, but Zarthol looked thoughtful. In his long life, he had learned that myths often contained kernels of truth, and the technology being displayed by humanity did seem beyond anything the current galaxy could produce. We need more information, he decided. I want full sensor sweeps of the galactic rim. Look for any other unusual activity, and increase monitoring of human space. I want to know immediately if anything changes. As the council members filed out to implement these orders, many of them felt a growing sense of unease. They had forced humanity into isolation to contain what they saw as a threat. But what if they had actually given humans the time and privacy they needed to develop into something far more dangerous, or perhaps something far more wonderful than any of them could imagine? The galaxy was about to change in ways none of them could predict. And at the center of it all, in the silent depths of human space, something incredible was taking shape. Something that would challenge everything the Council thought they knew about power, technology, and what it meant to be truly civilized. 2 years after humanity's departure, every communication device in the galaxy activated at once. Counselor Vexthan was in his private chambers on Zenith Prime when his emergency console lit up with urgent alerts. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy as the transmission reached every screen, every speaker, every quantum relay simultaneously. The technology required for such a broadcast was staggering. No species had ever managed to reach every device in the galaxy at the same time. But somehow humanity had done exactly that. The image that appeared showed Ambassador Sarah Chen, the same woman who had calmly walked out of the council chambers 2 years earlier. But everything else about the scene was different. She stood in what could only be described as a vast garden. Behind her, impossible landscapes stretched to the horizon. Trees from 100 different worlds grew in perfect harmony. Flowers that had been extinct for millions of years bloomed in brilliant colors. Rivers of crystal-clear water flowed through meadows of grass that shimmered like jewels. But it wasn't just the garden that was remarkable. Standing beside Sarah Chen were beings that made the council members gasp in shock. There were tall, elegant creatures with silver skin that reflected rainbow patterns. There were small, furry beings with large eyes and gentle expressions. There were others with scales, others with feathers, others with crystalline formations instead of skin. These were not humans, but they were also not any species the Council recognized. To our former colleagues in the Galactic Council, Sarah began, her voice carrying the same calm authority it had held years before. We have spent these years in reflection and growth. We respected your concerns about our expansion and unpredictability, so we took time to mature as a species. The camera moved slowly across the garden, revealing more impossible sights. In the distance, magnificent cities rose from the landscape, their spires reaching toward the sky in graceful curves. Ships moved silently overhead, their designs flowing and organic rather than mechanical. We have learned much about ourselves and about the galaxy's forgotten children, Sarah continued. She gestured to the beings around her, and several of them stepped forward. Each spoke briefly in their own language, but somehow the universal translators rendered their words perfectly into every galactic tongue. I am Seren of the Althari, said one of the silver-skinned beings. My people fell to plague 3 million years ago. Humanity found our genetic records in the ruins of our worlds and gave us life again. A small furry creature spoke next. I am Pip of the Kendari. We died when our sun went cold 2 million years ago. The humans built us a new star and brought our children home. One by one, 17 different beings introduced themselves. Each represented a species that galactic records listed as extinct. Some had died in wars, others from natural disasters, others from diseases or cosmic catastrophes. All of them spoke of humanity with gratitude and affection. Chief Counselor Zarthul watched from his chambers with growing amazement. In his 20,000 years, he had never seen anything like this. The resurrection of extinct species was beyond theoretical. It was mythological. How is this possible? He whispered to himself. Sarah Chen continued her broadcast as if she had heard his question. When we withdrew from galactic society, we did not do so in anger or resentment. We did so because we realized we needed to understand our place in the galaxy more deeply. We needed to learn not just how to expand, but how to heal. The camera panned across more of the garden, showing humans working alongside the resurrected species. They were planting new growths, tending to strange but beautiful creatures, building structures that seemed to grow rather than being constructed. We discovered that the galaxy is full of wounds, Sarah said. Worlds that died in ancient wars, species that fell to catastrophes, civilizations that were lost to time. We realized that true expansion doesn't mean taking more space. It means healing the damage that already exists. Behind her, the view changed to show space itself. But this wasn't the empty void the council members knew. This space was alive with activity. Massive structures surrounded stars, but instead of mining them, they seemed to be nurturing them. Dead planets showed signs of renewed life. Asteroid fields had been transformed into garden habitats. We have spent these 2 years learning the technologies of restoration, Sarah explained. We have studied the genetic records of lost species. We have rebuilt dead worlds. We have brought extinct ecosystems back to life. We have turned empty space into something beautiful. Counselor Morok watched from his world with his massive jaw hanging open. The scale of what humans had accomplished was beyond anything he could comprehend. They hadn't just developed new technology. They had redefined what technology could do. Our space now encompasses over 2,000 star systems, Sarah continued. But we have not taken these systems from anyone. We have restored them from the cosmic graveyard of history. We have given life back to worlds that have been dead longer than most civilizations have existed. The image shifted again, showing vast fleets of ships unlike anything in galactic databases. But these weren't military vessels. They were mobile habitats, research stations, and construction ships. They moved through space with the grace of living things, working together to restore and rebuild. We return now not as the young, reckless species you remember, Sarah said with a gentle smile. We return as gardeners of the galaxy. We have learned that space is vast enough for everyone, including those you thought were lost forever. Counselor Zeke of the Thrix watched with her compound eyes wide with shock. The implications of what she was seeing were staggering. Humanity hadn't just survived their isolation. They had used it to become something unprecedented in galactic history. We invite you to join us in this new chapter, Sarah continued. A chapter where expansion means restoration, where strength serves cultivation rather than conquest, where the measure of civilization is not how much you can take, but how much you can heal. The transmission showed coordinates for a neutral system at the edge of human space. We have prepared a meeting place where our species can come together as equals. Come see what we've grown. Come see what the galaxy can become when we work together to heal rather than harm. Sarah paused and her expression became more serious. We understand that our transformation may seem threatening. The sudden acquisition of advanced capabilities always raises questions, but we invite you to judge us not by our power, but by how we choose to use it. Behind her, children of a dozen different species played together in the impossible garden. Humans and resurrected aliens worked side by side with obvious affection and respect. The galaxy has room for everyone, Sarah concluded. The living and the lost, the ancient and the young, the mighty and the small. We hope you will join us in making it a garden worthy of all its children. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. In the council chambers, the emergency session that followed was unlike any in recorded history. The usual formal protocols were abandoned as council members struggled to process what they had witnessed. They've done the impossible, Dr. Yilmaz reported, his massive trunk trembling with excitement. The resurrection of extinct species, the restoration of dead worlds, the manipulation of space itself on a galactic scale. It violates everything we thought we knew about the limits of science. Chief Counselor Zarthol looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. Many of them appeared to be in shock. Others looked frightened. A few seemed angry at being so completely outmaneuvered, but all of them understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had not returned as the young, dangerous species the Council had tried to contain. They had returned as something entirely new, something that made the old power structures of the galaxy seem suddenly obsolete. "What do we do now?" asked Counselor Vexthan quietly. Zarthol considered the question carefully. In his 20,000 years, he had learned to recognize when the galaxy was at a turning point. This was such a moment. "We accept their invitation," he said finally. "We go see what they've built, and we try to understand our place in this new galaxy they've created." Outside the council chambers across the galaxy, species were making similar decisions. The coordinates Sarah Chen had provided were being entered into navigation systems on thousands of ships. The council had celebrated too soon when humanity departed in silence. They thought they had solved a problem by forcing isolation on a dangerous young species. Instead, they had given humanity the time and space they needed to become something that would reshape the galaxy itself. The Age of Gardens was about to begin,